2014 Royal Rumble, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for botching. It's just that I had a lot of stuff on my mind right now. Look, in New York, it's 15 degrees. You see me wearing this. At this moment in time, I actually have heat. I'm still sick, ladies and gentlemen. That's the reason why I didn't do my Impact review. I've been sick for several days because this place is cold. I barely get even 60 degrees, and even though they've notified the landlord, nothing got done. Only now they're giving us heat, and now the temperature's dipping back under into the teens again with the wind chill. So, if I seem to botch a little bit, I am under medication. So, what are we getting this Pittsburgh? The Pennsylvania crowd was good, but they were vocal what they did not like. And when it comes down to it, no matter what you guys think of this show, this pay-per-view, the crowd wanted Daniel Bryan very badly. And they didn't get it the way they wanted it, at least at the end of the show. You guys understand what I mean? So let's get to the beginning of the show. Now you guys tell me below. Was there 4 matches usually on the Royal Rumble, or 5? And then they do the Royal Rumble, or do they do 2 or 3 matches? Because I admit I haven't been myself lately. But as far as I remember, we usually get 4 or 5 matches. Not very long ones, but medium to short matches that are really good. And then you get the Royal Rumble itself. We get 3 matches, not counting the kickoff show at the beginning. Which I don't understand. Why in the blue hell do they activate YouTube with almost an hour's wait before you even see the kickoff show, and then you don't see anything really good? You have to wait until the end of the kickoff before you get to see anything. Like this match. The tag champs. The Rhodes Brothers versus the New Age Outlaws. Now, I personally have never really had a chance to see them. This is actually my time. This is my chance to actually intake and really get a good gauge of what the New Age Outlaws really offered, even though they are 14 years older. I never got that chance because I was in a bad marriage. I was working myself to death over a 10 to a 15-hour job. I just didn't think about wrestling. Maybe once in a while in a year, maybe if I was lucky, 10 times in a year, I watched wrestling for maybe any period of time of a few minutes to a couple of hours, if I was lucky. So I never got a chance to see the New Age Outlaws. I only heard about them. So this was my opportunity. And it wasn't a bad match. Sorry, I'm still sick. It was not a bad match. Did I want to see the Rhodes Brothers break up? Actually, yes, I did. Because Cody, even though Goldust and Cody have not been 100% bad at all. Everyone loves Goldust. But that's my problem. Goldust really coming in working with his brother kind of buried him very badly. I'm actually being very nice instead of saying kind of, when actually he was buried by his brother. Not intentionally. I don't believe Goldust buried his brother on purpose. But the crowd loved Goldust. And it's obvious that the WWE crowd, and I have something to say at the end of this, that the WWE crowd is hungry for content. And the problem I see is that they have to go to the older, more experienced wrestlers instead of building their current base. And you can see it in this Royal Rumble. Really. So, in the end, they're now no longer the tag champs, the Rhodes Brothers. I don't really have a problem with that. I'm hoping they'll do something with Cody. But if they do nothing with him, then they should have never split him off from his brother. But we won't know if they're going to split them apart because of what's going to happen this Raw. This is tonight. So, the next match, which is the first match of the night, Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt, which I believe, and this is my humble perspective, is, it's not the best match of the night, even though it easily can be. The question that gets me, that makes me feel that this is not the best all-around match, even though it was great technical wrestling, great high-flying, great suspense, seeing Eric and Luke being told by Bray, go in the back, I don't need you to win my war or my battle. That was great. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. But the problem here is this. What happens to Daniel Bryan now? I'm not seeing this by just a great storytelling and great technical match and great high-flying match. I'm seeing this as what happens to these characters afterward. In this perspective, normally I don't do this, but the problem here is, I've said this many, many times, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk have had nothing to do for many, many months. They stuck Daniel Bryan with Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt brothers in the hopes of doing something. And they had a great possible storyline that they got scared out of their asses that could turn the base against Daniel Bryan, and they killed it. Now I can understand why they did it. It's a good chance that it could have happened. And the reason I say this is very simple. The WWE has not structured their talent properly. They have not structured their talent's characters properly. And they're not giving them very good storyline for many years. So the most over guy they got in the company, which is Daniel Bryan, they don't want to risk it. So I can understand them doing that. But just like I said earlier in this review, the WWE is in trouble for the simple fact they have to turn to their older talent to give them more content, because they have not done well with their younger talent. And even though Daniel Bryan is the most over, they're not willing to take chances that could have made him even more over and brought up a couple of people with him. And there's the problem. And I'll explain some more later. But in the end, it was still a good match. And it was a good blow-off. But like I said, what happens now? And that's the reason why I don't consider this the match of the night. And it can easily be. So the next match is Brock Lesnar versus Big Show. Which I can say for me personally is not the best match of the night, but the best match that gives you a question of what happens now. The first match didn't give you a question, what's great that could happen now? It didn't. It gives you a very scary question, what could happen to Daniel Bryan now? This match, which I personally wish had happened at WrestleMania 30. You get the beatdown on Mr. Show. Get a short match where Brock Lesnar wins. And you get a beatdown again on the show. What happens now? Does Big Show go away for a while and come back? And then these two finally have a match at WrestleMania? Do they continue their rivalry going into WrestleMania? I believe that's possible. This is a curious match for me personally. I'm curious to find out what's going to happen to Brock now. Even though we know who wins in the next match I'm going to talk about, will they structure this right going into Elimination Chamber? What will happen to Big Show as well? Will he be going away for a couple of months, or will he just stay there? Is that the wisest thing for them to do? This is the most curious match for me. The next match before the Royal Rumble is John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And the crowd was not happy about this match. There were moments that the crowd was going into it and they were getting into it. But the crowd really didn't give a fuck. Unless I'm perceiving this wrong. And I can admit that I can't understand everything in the wrestling business. You guys can tell me. But you know what? Maybe I might be sick. Maybe I still have a lot on my mind. This also could be my depression that's kind of skewing me, because I kind of have it from all the stress that I've had in the last nearly month. But I can say this. Seeing that the Pennsylvania crowd, the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania crowd, chanted for JBL, chanted for, what was it? Jerry, mainly chanted for Daniel Bryan. They did not care about this match. And it wasn't a bad match. It was actually pretty damn good. It wasn't the match of the night. I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was not the match of the night either. But it was a good match that both these guys put on. But I believe because they've been seeing them for so many years, and the crowd really rather see Daniel Bryan, and even the King and JBL during the match said, you know what? The crowd really believes that this should be Daniel Bryan's moment. This is the problem. The crowd didn't want to see John Cena do this. The crowd didn't want to see Randy Orton there. They wouldn't care as long as there was a Daniel Bryan inserted into it. And that did not happen. In the end, we get, what, a very a skewed type of situation. Sorry, something was malfunctioning. We get a very skewed situation here where the Wyatts do a interference, basically, and come into the match. Well, they didn't touch anybody, but essentially speaking, they distracted John Cena and he lost. He couldn't lose clean, as usual. But that means the Wyatts are now dealing with John Cena. That's not good. I'm sorry. Like I said, what happened with Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt? What goes on now? If Bray Wyatt is dealing with John Cena and Luke and Eric are dealing with John Cena, you guys know what is going to happen. They will be eventually buried if they don't do this properly for them. And I wish not to see that for Bray Wyatt and Luke and Eric. I don't want to see that. These guys are great possible future talent for the WWE that they desperately needed and do need right now. But we're going to get them dealing with John Cena. What happened with John Cena with the Nexus? The Shield. Eventually become irrelevant if you stick them with him too long. So I'm hoping it'll be short. Now, finally, the match of the night, which is the Royal Rumble for me personally. Seeing Seth Rollins and CM Punk at the very beginning of the match was good. I enjoyed seeing them. And it was a very good question to see, could Seth Rollins do an hour near match? We know, guys, that, how can I say how well CM Punk did? If you guys have seen his documentary, you know he can do hour matches, 30-minute matches, 10-minute matches. He's professional enough to be able to pull it off, and he did. He did a great job near the end. Of course, he didn't win, but the point is that two guys that we never knew could actually do it did very well. Roman Reigns, at the very end of it, was really good. The next person that shocked me was El Tortillo. If I'm pronouncing the guy's name wrong, I'm sorry. I'm bad with names. Seeing that... excuse me, I'm still sick. Seeing oh man. Seeing that this guy, who usually works with Primo and Epico, is in the Royal Rumble, was fucking funny. I loved it, every inch of it. It was funny when he dealt with Roman Reigns, when he dealt with Fandango, when Fandango got his ass thrown out of the ring, when he dealt with CM Punk and CM Punk got a Hurricanrana. The guy was epic. I loved it. Dos Matadores. What? I'm glad they had this guy with him because he's good. I loved it. Another guy who did very well was, I'm about to say Santino Marella. Antonio Vazzato. I'm sorry. I am kind of sick. Antonio did a great job. He stuck in there for quite a long time. He was a character I always knew was good. And now seeing him there was great. I'm glad he was allowed to represent himself there very well. A person named Alexander Huskin, if I'm pronouncing his name, from NXT. I have not been able to see NXT for at least a month, unfortunately. So if Mr. Parkin's seen this, I'm sorry, dude. I had a lot on my mind. But I had managed to see him at least once or twice when it was before that. And he looked like a powerhouse. Seeing that this guy is going barefoot like, oh, the Wild Samoans was just epic. I love it. He could have a great showing when he comes into the WWE from NXT. So I hope something good will happen. Kofi, we already know about Kofi is Kofi. They always do something screwy with him every Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber. We know this. But in the end, I feel sorry for Kofi because he's really not doing anything. He won against Randy Orton, then he had to lose technically because of John Cena. And the question is now, what is he going to do? Basically nothing else. Another person I felt was really, you know what? Seeing Kane deal with CM Punk gives me some interest. Seeing CM Punk eliminate Kane and then Kane pull CM Punk out of the ring and kick his ass makes me feel that we're going to have corporate Kane versus CM Punk, who's anti-establishment. In a sense, a very, very watered down Mr. McMahon with a very, very watered down Steve Austin. I have no problem seeing this happen. I want to see what's going to happen with CM Punk and Kane. The question will be, will they structure this very well or not? And usually the WWE has not done very well. You can see what's going on for the last 6-8 months. When it came to Batista, we know what happened. But I'm not going to talk about Batista at this moment. I'm talking about his buddy, Rey Mysterio. The crowd was fucking angry that Rey was number 30. They expected Daniel Bryan. They didn't get it. So they were fucking angry at this. They wanted him there. And they didn't get it. And they wished for Rey to get kicked out. And when he did get kicked out, they were screaming in ovation. That is not great to see for Rey Mysterio, who worked his ass off for 20 years or so. But it's understood why. So let's end this with Batista versus Roman Reigns at the end. And even though Sheamus, Batista, and Roman Reigns were the last, and it was great to see Sheamus. I love seeing Sheamus back. Fala! I love seeing Sheamus. Excuse me. I love seeing Sheamus back. But you guys tell me below if he looked a little ring rusty. Because he did. He looked winded very easily about 5 to 8 minutes into it. I'd say about 5 minutes in. Sheamus doesn't usually get winded very, very quickly. But he's been gone for quite a while. He needs to get some of this ring rust off of him. He looked great. But you know, to go in the ring is way different than just doing cardio. So when it came to Roman Reigns and Batista, when the crowd could not have their Daniel Bryan, they went straight to Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns eliminated 12 guys, broke Kane's record. They really got great expectations for Roman Reigns. In the end, it's Batista who won, and the crowd was angry. They did not want this. But it's understood why. Batista came back. They need Batista to go up against Randy Orton. 2 guys from Evolution. It's understood. But it was great to see Roman Reigns with such a great effort. Maybe now they'll break them apart. But it's hard to say if they're going to finally break up the Shield. They still have them do their own promos together. So the last thing I want to talk about is my feelings about this review and the WWE in general. This pay-per-view was not bad at all. It was pretty good. But here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. The WWE does not, and I repeat, does not have any fully, very well established stars past Randy Orton, John Cena, Triple H, Big Show, and essentially, who else would be there? I would say Kane. Those are the strongest ones they have. Even though Daniel Bryan is doing great, and we can't say he isn't. What about everybody else? Excuse me. What about Dolph Ziggler? And I'm not saying that he's great, but he could have been thrusted into the main event scene to see if it would work or not. And if he didn't work, he'd go back down. Kofi Kingston's another example. Ryback, they destroyed Ryback for John Cena. And Ryback looked terrible in the Royal Rumble. Antonio Cesaro is a great new example of an up-and-coming star. But they're not going to do anything to him, at least for another year. I hope it's before that. I hope I'm wrong. But when you look at this, the WWE has a serious problem. They have to go to the past to make interesting content. You can see it with the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, with Goldust, with Batista. Come on, Diesel was in the show and people jizzed for him. I'm sorry. The people they need to raise up, they're not doing. They're acting like TNA to a point. They're letting the older generation come in to try and give them new content. Because they realize they fucked up the younger generation for the older generation. Or just for one person in that generation. And I have to say John Cena is not 100% responsible, but they have pushed John Cena way ahead of everyone else. This was a good Royal Rumble, but it's very sad and scary to see that the WWE has no choice but to go to the older generation to help and prop up most of the company. Not company. So I hope you enjoyed the Zane View. Subscribe and comment. Oh, I did it again. Give me a comment below. Sorry about talking about subscribing. You guys, I hope you do give me a comment below. And I hope you have a good day. And look for my Raw review.